Hello, I'm Mary Spicer, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Behind Fashion. In this unprecedented time, the fashion industry, like so many industries, is in distress. Around the world, we have gathered together to demand racial and social justice. No industry is exempt, and the hard work must continue. I am taping this episode before November 3rd. It is my greatest of hopes that good changes are coming to our country and that we may all start working together toward better solutions for this pandemic and the systemic racism that has plagued our country for too long. Future generations will ask what we did to affect the outcome of this pivotal election. We need to be able to tell them we did all we could. On the note of pivoting, she is a fashion brand strategist, author of the book, The Fashionable Business Plan, and the founder of Fashion Cross-Functional. Today, it is my great pleasure to introduce all of you to Printsesy Bako Rambinintsoa.
Hello, Mary. Thank
Hello,
you for the
Bako.
nice intro. Hi. How are
Thank
you
you
doing?
so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
I know you're really busy, and you are talking to me from Paris. What time is it there?
It's 10 p.m. It's 10 p.m., so it's really in the evening.
Thank
We
you.
are in the middle of our second lockdown. It started a few days ago, so
I
yeah.
saw the traffic on the news. Many people were leaving.
Yeah, exactly. They were fleeing to to the countryside. That's what
Yeah.
they do when there's confinement here in France. So
Yeah. But before let's talk about the pandemic. You are in France. It's happening all around the world. How are you and your family doing during this time?
oh, thanks for asking. So my family is spread all over the world. So my mom is in Madagascar, so she's fine. Uh,
Okay.
they had a few episodes of semi lockdown. So it was they had a lockdown in the afternoon, and they could go in and out in the morning. But now it's over, and the cases are going down. My brother is in Germany, so they experienced the second lockdown as well, like in France.
Yeah.
And my aunts and uncles and cousins are here as well, like me in Paris, and they're in lockdown as well. But everybody's fine, and my close ones are fine as well. I'm super lucky to uh, to observe that everybody's safe and sound at home. So yeah.
Oh, I'm really glad. And it's nice that you have some family in Paris that you can see even with a mask on and from afar.
Actually, I haven't seen them that much. I've seen them once for a wedding. It was super weird, but like it was super quick, and we all had masks on, and there was a great distance, social distancing. So yeah, it was a bit weird, but yeah, uh, life goes on.
Life
Yeah.
goes on. Well, I met you through Maggie Burns. She's a
Yeah.
designer here in Denver of Marie Margot. And that was just so very nice. She said, "You've got to meet Baku. She's amazing." And she wasn't kidding. And I'm interested to read that your name is written often as Printsesy Bako Rambinintsoa.
Mhm.
Princessy means princess. Is that correct?
Yes, it's right.
That's
It's exact.
that's amazing. You have an incredible background.
Thank
Um,
you.
I have to talk about it because it is integral to who you are, how you've gotten to where you are, and your business and how you have a world view of fashion. Now, you're a descendant of a prince from Madagascar, and you
Right.
are from a family who dressed the French army during colonization.
Exactly. So as you said, I descend from a princely family in Madagascar, and we we still have our, let's say, customs, and we organize parties and ball. Is there a ball? Do you say ball as well in
Yes, I
balls
do.
in France and in Madagascar? Um, that's what we do now today. We continue doing that. And in as for the army, the French army, my grandfather used to make um, bespoke bespoke costumes for officers of the French army.
Wow.
So, and his specialization was gold work embroidery. So it was 24 karat gold embroidered on the costumes.
Okay, so
This is a skill that I learned as well, by the way. So,
oh,
yeah.
wow. So growing up in these workshops, seeing this work, the detail, this developed your love of fashion. So why did you give up the designer stylist training that you had enrolled in Dusseldorf, Germany?
Um, I actually didn't enroll in
Oh,
the end. I wanted to, but let's say it, my family went bankrupt.
hmm.
So they didn't have the funds to send me and do like design, especially design in their since the business went bankrupt for them, it was like cursed, and they didn't want to send me again in that business that crumbled down. So um, I in the end I worked a lot as a teenager, and I won a full scholarship to study business in
Wow.
instead in France. So that's what I did. And after a few years after graduating, I kind of forgot about fashion, and at at that time I wanted to build a very solid career, make a lot of money, and I started with audit, and finance, and until my career came to a dead end, and I finally um, reminded me of a phrase, that a saying that they have in Africa. They say, when you don't know where you're going to, remember where you come from. And that's exactly what I did. And I remember I was really lost, and I asked myself, like, what did you like as a child? What did you enjoy? And I remembered the workshop, sewing, and clothes and fabrics, and I actually decided to explore that this path again.
Wow.
So
And so
that's how I
growing
came
up,
back there.
you lived in Algeria, you lived in Madagascar, Germany, France. Um, did you travel between those countries often, or did you live from one to the other?
As a kid, I was born in Algeria. So I was born there. I grew up there and in Germany and in Madagascar later on. But basically, the 5 first years of my life with my family, we traveled back and forth from Germany to Algeria, and back and forth and back and forth. We spent 6 months in a year in each country. And that's how I grew up. And then we went to live in Madagascar when I was 7 until the age of 17. And then at 17, I got this full scholarship. So I went to study business in France. But yes, I traveled a lot as a child, and it was very interesting. Back then, as a child, it's always difficult because you get attached to things. You get attached to your room, to your district, to your friends. I had friends, and I always had to say goodbye, and it was very hard as a child to grow up in that kind of life. But then later on, it gave me all the luggage to deal with life, actually.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing we're sure of. It's that there will be change. Do you think that helped um, your view of the world when making business decisions? like having that extra bit of travel? And how many languages do you speak?
I speak 4.5 languages. Like it's Malagasy, French, German, and English, and a little bit of Spanish. A little
Wow.
bit of- And yeah, it helped me a lot shape my business decisions because I'm I'm very flexible and I can adapt really fast. This ability to leave things behind as a child and to grieve really fast enabled me to really turn not turn my back really, but to be able to go forward in spite of whatever was behind me before.
Mhm.
So I have a good ability to adapt to change.
Wow. I, yeah, absolutely. And to move like that when you're young, that is tough. Um, and does it help you with your coping skills during this pandemic now that the world has been turned on its ear?
Yes, I must say that because I see lots of the people around me in my environment, in France or even in Germany, um, having difficulties accepting the pandemic. And I've always like looked at it. I've shaped my mind to always look for the opportunity in the present situation. So even if it was hard, because I could no longer go to conferences, fashion conferences. I couldn't go to fashion shows and see my clients. But still, I tried to find the good side. So I I sort of thought about it for 1 hour or two, and then I just decided to be happy about the extra time that was given to me to work on my business. I just I for example, I needed to rethink my strategy, and this was a perfect opportunity. There were tons of uh, online courses that I wanted to watch, but I bought them, but I didn't have time to implement. So it was, in the end, it was a gift for me. And I took it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, at the beginning, it felt like a burden, of course, like
Yes.
anyone.
Yeah, and the fashion world is rethinking many of the things that they've done. There are things that we've talked about that needed to change,
Yeah.
and this is the opportunity to do that. This is also an opportunity for many designers, new and experienced, to pivot. But I think many of them don't know where it is they should pivot to. So, with your business, can you explain to me what Fashion Cross Functional offers?
So I today I offer coaching sessions. It can be a spot session if you have like a real quick issue to that you need an answer to, or a 3 month or 6 month strategy session. So we're sitting together every week or every 2 weeks, depending. Like it can be 2 hours every 2 weeks or 1 hour every week. Um, to sit down together, see where you're at, and see together where you're going to, and build a roadmap together. And every week we check where you are, and if you have like technical issues on your strategy and you don't know how to do it, I can unlock it. So I've been doing this with a few designers these days, and it was a great opportunity for them as well. For example, lots of the designers emerging designers I had, they were not digitized enough,
Mm-hmm.
so they weren't able to face the lockdown
Mm-hmm.
and to work with it. And so we worked on that. We
Yeah.
worked on that, and first being having um, all the requirements laid out at the beginning before digitizing, because digitizing is not a magical solution. It's not magic. So you have, there are requirements at the beginning that you need to check and to verify at the beginning. For example, your brand identity should be clear, because if it's not clear, it will be just another e-commerce website out there, and people won't be able to recognize it or even to relate to it if it's not strong enough. So we
Right.
work on that before building the website, building an Instagram strategy together. So there's that, finding your audience, exactly understanding who your target customer is, building a persona and really relating to those people, understanding what they want, what they like about you. So we've done all that,
Right.
with those designers, and I've helped them. I've been there with them, holding their hand and
Yeah.
the tissue sometimes.
Well, I mean, so yeah, in thinking about that, no matter where I am in the world, and I do love to travel, I mean, you could be in Amsterdam. You know what the Golden Arches
Exactly.
are. You could be in France. There's Golden Arches. I can't believe it. Why? But
Yeah.
no matter where you are, that branding is very clear. So are you saying that even smaller and newer companies need to completely brand like that so that we always can identify who they are?
Exactly, and this is actually the opportunity they have, compared to a bigger company. They are able to be more flexible and more precise and more relatable as a small business. So the small brands and the small businesses that really took on are the ones that had this footprint, this signature.
Right.
Because if you don't have any signature, it's difficult to know uh, to whom you're going to sell your products and how you're going to talk to those people, because you don't talk the same way to a boho bohemian audience compared to I don't know, a punk or a rock punk audience, for example. It's
Right.
very, those are two different audiences, and you don't talk the same way.
Oh, so that's very interesting. So if I'm a new business or an established business, should I be trying to make my website available around the world, or is this something that I would keep to, like, let's say the US or just my state?
I think if it's good to already have an established base in your country first, do approach it step by step,
Mhm.
and then gain some press, reliable fashion press there. And from there, we can get to know the audience better and better, understand what they really like, what kind of hashtag they follow, for example, or and from there branch out with other countries, I
Oh,
would
so
say.
get that good base first.
Yes, but
Firm start.
build the base first, and then maybe find either a multi-brand outside of the country, abroad, or now lots of the distributors are available on Instagram, so they are really easy to approach right now. So this is why the identity is very important as well, to brand correctly, because if people don't relate to that, if the distributors, the multi brands don't relate to your brand identity, they won't be able to sell you either. So it's good to align in that way. But um, in my book, the Fashion Business Plan,
Mhm.
I show there is a technique. It starts with branding. a business plan is not only about figures, it's also about strategy. And the strategy in fashion starts with branding. So there is, in the first chapter, there is a little workbook where you can work, when you can fill out the spaces and work on your own brand DNA, your own brand signature. I've had designers use this and they got so such good feedbacks from press. They got featured in it was Vogue, and it
That
was
small
Vanity Fair
magazine. I said that small magazine.
UK, and Vogue UK and Vanity Fair UK. So
Wow.
yeah, so if you really do it well, it pays off, you know, and it gives a very good credibility as well for your audience.
And you know, as the CEO of Fashion Cross Functional, you're also a senior manager at a management consulting firm that has offices in Paris, Dubai, Lebanon, Canada, and Switzerland, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
So that gives you an incredibly unique worldwide business perspective. You really can see what's happening. You understand about this branding. It sounds so simple until the businesses start going in, I have to say. And then it's, you start getting, I would say, almost emotional, and a little bit concerned about, does this look cool enough? You know, we all start thinking about how it looks to others. But I think on your website, you know, there are certain things that we do trying to get our brand out there, trying to show our clothing in motion. And one of them is the fashion show. And on your site, I loved this blog. You wrote 3 simple things you need to check before a fashion show. And my favorite statement of yours, and anybody that knows me, I'm like a broken record. You said a fashion show is a business decision. Yes, it is. Can you please explain that?
Thank you. This is I think we must have the same experiences over and over again if you relate to that statement, but it's true. I meet a lot of emerging designers who come into the business with sparkles in their eyes, which is really good, but they look for this, they are into fashion because of the fancy side of it. And the first thing they do is invest in a fashion show, but not the right ones. That's the problem that I have. So I have seen and been invited personally, and I've been there actually to fashion shows sometimes where, I mean, they paid 12,000 euros, for example, which is the equivalent of $14,000 or something, or $15,000 for a location that is not in the fashion district, with guests who will never talk about the fashion show, or who would talk about it, but since the audience that they target is not listening to them, then it's pointless. And they invested a lot of money for just petit four and a nice party, and it's a pity, I think, because the return on investment is negative. It's and that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen, because a fashion show is an intentional decision. It should be firstly in line, of course, with the brand identity of the brand, the identity of the brand. It should tell a story about the brand. It should be a decision that will help you sell more in the future, in the near future. So it's not only a nice party. And this decision, and this is the thing that I always feel often, that I often feel with the designers at the beginning, because they invest more into the fancy stuff than into the real strategy and the time that they require to make a serious, sustainable business that they would be able to live off.
Right. Well, and so what are those three simple things that the designer needs to check?
Okay, so the first thing that they need to do is to check the previous editions of these fashion shows, and they need to check for the guests, what kind of people attended the fashion show in the past. Okay, are there fashion professionals, serious fashion professionals? Are there buyers, especially buyers from multi-brands, buyers from retailers, etc.? So you need to check really what kind of people attend, if they are interesting for your business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're able to see what kind of multi-brands are attending, do they sell the kind of style that you sell?
Right.
Okay, this is a little plus. Second, I would also check the press that they got in previous editions. Is it serious press? Is it fashion press?
Right. Is
And
it just bloggers, or is it actual magazines, or?
it bloggers is okay as long as they have there are serious fashion bloggers out there, you
Mhm.
know, Chiara Ferrani, for example, or lots of there are lots of serious fashion bloggers out there. And if they're there, that's perfect, you know, and especially if they also really, if they talk to an audience that you also talk to, because
Mm.
if it's not the case, it's again, it's a gap that you won't be able to fill, you know, and maybe they will not promote your brand if they feel that your brand is not does not relate with their audience. But first you need to check, okay, of course it's even better if you have serious fashion magazines, or even like even business press is okay, you know, because there are still people from the fashion industry, or even your own final customer who are maybe reading uh, business press. But you need to really look at the press that talked about the previous editions, and to ensure that the final audience of this press can relate to your own brand.
Mm.
Okay. And then the um, third tip would be to also check the visuals that they have. Is it needs to be perfect. It needs to be wow. It needs to be professional. Okay. Sometimes I see designers here, they participate to um, fashion shows, and the footages are horrible to just
Mm.
and they spend 4,000 euros or 5,000 euros for it. Okay, it's cheaper than a Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, for example, in Germany, but for what, you know?
Right. Right.
And
It,
it's
it
not
really is an
professional, and
investment.
nobody would take you seriously with a footage where the model is shot from, you know, below, and it's really unprofessional. So yeah, check those three things.
Great. We're getting close to the end of the time, but I do want to ask you, with the pandemic, many fashion shows have changed to being virtual or sparsely attended, like in New York or in China. They're having full fashion shows, and they're very full. In in France, I think you guys have a little bit of both, some attended and some virtual. So what do
Yeah.
you what do you think the future is of the fashion show? Are we just going to go right back to the beginning where it's just fully attended, or what do you think is going to happen?
I I hope, I'm not a fortune teller, but I think and I hope it will be a little bit of both, like something digital combined with something physical. It will reflect also what's happening in e-commerce with the omni-channel view of a fashion that we have. I think that it will be the same as well. So maybe you will have a digital show, a digital presentation, something nice and original combined with physical fashion show. I really, for example, I told you about, we last time we talked about it when we exchanged about the Moschino fashion show, you
Mhm.
know, the one with the puppets, and it was really charming. I loved it. It was very charming, and it was a very interesting way to show to feature the clothes without being physical. So it was very touching, you know. So if we can combine both views, have both a physical and a digital fashion show, maybe that would be
Yeah.
nice.
You are such a gem and a light in the midst of this pandemic to have this
Thank you so
business.
much.
I, I know that you have very good and clear thoughts with business and great
Thank you.
results. And I know
Thank
that
you.
you're busy and I know it's late in Paris. And thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary. It was a delight. I loved it.
Thank you so much. I'll have to have you come on again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for attending this episode of Behind Fashion. You can find information about Baku and her company at her website, www.fashioncrossfunctional.com. That's FashionCrossfunctional, fashioncrossfunctional.com. And her Instagram is at fashionfxf. So you can just subscribe to Behind Fashion with me, Mary Spicer, on my YouTube channel, so that all of my interviews are at your fingertips and you won't miss another one. I'll see you all next Wednesday, November 11th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West Coast, and 5 p.m. British Summer Time. All the best to you and yours.